What's up? Good morning, everybody, and happy Monday morning. Jason and I are very excited to be hanging out with you after a great week. Well, a good week. Let's go with good week at Inman last week. A lot of fun, a lot of great people. Relationships are my big takeaway, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But we are I'm honestly probably excited to be talking more about this topic in particular than anything we've talked about in a long time. And if you joined us on Friday, you know that we had a great discussion between a couple of great people and professionals within our industry, Scott Groves and Evan Wade. If you didn't see that episode, you should definitely check it out. Again, we posted it last Friday. It's definitely a little bit longer episode, but it's definitely worth the opportunity to listen in and hear some of the things that were discussed on the broker side of the industry and the retail side. But if you're joining us this morning, if you're joining us on LinkedIn, if you're joining us on Facebook, if you're joining us on YouTube, do this. Go ahead and comment right now. If you're joining us live, comment #shred because you're here shredding it with us right now. And if you're joining us on the replay, make sure you comment #hustle because you are out there hustling, getting it done, and you are coming back and watching when you get the chance. But let's get right into our topic. Let's get into this discussion. As always, Jason and I are going to be monitoring all the comments that we possibly can.
And I look like an angel today.
You do. I wasn't going to say anything, but Jason, as you can see, we have played with the lighting all morning long. And for some reason, Jason is just angelic this morning. He is looking good. That white shirt. He is just, his countenance is bright this morning. Let's just put it that way.
Let's just be honest, though. I'm an angel every day.
He's an angel every single day. Every day I get to work with Jason. It's just like working with an angel, a beautifully mustached angel, if we can. So with that, let's jump right into our topic this morning. And I don't know if you, hopefully you read a little bit about Jason's. He made a great post and an article about what we're talking about this morning. But I want to start things off. And we're going to get a little feedback here, so hold with us. Oh, good. It didn't give any feedback. That's great news. Last week, we were at Inman, and we heard Rich Barton, who is the CEO of Zillow, and he got up on stage and was talking about the future of real estate, and there were some other great people on stage. But one of Rich's comments on stage really kind of I guess, concerned me. Yep. And we'll get into my discussion with Rich here in a second. But what Rich said was he sees the mortgage transaction in particular being a part of the entire transaction, if you will. And he's talking about the real estate transaction. And he talked about how they're already building out a place on Zillow on their site where the transaction will be all inclusive, about how loan officers and mortgage professionals really aren't needed. They don't need to be part of the transaction. So with that, I had the opportunity backstage to kind of talk with Rich for a very brief second. And I thought about this a lot, Jason. Yep. I thought about how I wanted to talk about this interaction. And I'm going to keep this brief because I don't want this to be the focus. But let's just put it this way. I had a brief interaction with Rich Barton, and let's just say I was unimpressed. Now, with that being said, being the CEO of Zillow, a huge corporation, huge company, I know the guy is constantly bombarded. He is always, people are trying to trap him in conversations. I absolutely know that. Like, I understand that. And with a CEO like that, that's to be expected. Now, with that being the case as well, people know that I'm not a very, our conversation that we were having was amongst other people. And I didn't come out and say, hey, Rich, I want to film. Let's get you on film and talk about this. I asked him just a very simple question. Hey, I'd like to really clarify what you said on stage. Yep. And let's just say he was pretty rude when it came to his response. As a matter of fact, didn't even respond, just turned away, said, talk to my assistant, and literally just left the conversation. So,
well, let's take it back a little bit. And also first, before we get into a little bit more of detail of that interaction, let's take it back and say, like I said in my post yesterday, first and foremost, this isn't a Zillow bashing 100%. Video. And if anyone came for the Zillow bashing, that's not what this was. That's why I made that post yesterday. Anyone knows my background knows that I haven't been an anti-Zillow guy, and I'm still not an anti-Zillow guy.
100%.
I'm an anti-mortgage lenders not waking the freak up and understanding that they're your competitor. And I'm going to give you, we're going to get into that information here in a second. But let's, and Josh, I appreciate that. And again, we're not trying to do gotcha. We're not trying to do any of this crap, because we hung out at Inman Connect with basically every top CEO and leader of brokerages and technology companies there. Every single
so
person.
Cool.
Chris Heller of Ojo Labs, you know, formerly of Loan Depot and Mellow Home. Cool guy.
Very
Adam
cool.
Contos.
Adam Contos.
Head
very
of Remax.
Cool guy.
Really cool guy, down to earth guy. Glenn Sanford of EXP. Down the cool, you know, taking pictures, stuff like that. Every good interaction. It's Morgan Carey, right, of real estate.
Yeah, Morgan Carey. Yep.
Morgan Carey, cool guy. You know, everybody, every single person except Rich Barton, and because so as we did with everyone, hey, just want to introduce ourselves, say hi to you. First words out of Rich Barton's mouth was, "What do you want?
What do you
Not
want?
Hi. What do you want?"
That literally, and that's just it. And everybody watching this, I'm not trying to bash Zillow. I'm not trying to bash Rich. Again, the guy had just come off stage, and the discussion on
with
stage
Brad Inman, so that could be a little heated.
It was definitely a little bit heated. But coming off the stage, I didn't just run right up to him. You got to remember that too. We were standing in a conversation. He actually approached the conversation that we were in. I introduced myself, and I didn't pull up the camera. I didn't do anything like that. I just said, "Hey, I'm Josh Spitz. Nice to meet you. Great job on stage. Hey, just real quick, I want to clarify this." And that's when it just was very, very put off. Like, "Hey, don't talk to me. Who the hell do you think you are?" So again, I'm not bashing Rich here. It was a very unfortunate conversation and very brief conversation. And then his assistant came up and said, "What do you want to talk to him about?" And again, I understand the position that he's in, but let's put that aside. Very unfortunate conversation with Rich. I wish it would have gone differently, because I mean, you got to give to the guy. He's built an incredible company of what he's done. But let's get to Zillow. And Jason, I want you to touch a little bit on, you wrote your I would call it an article. You gave a really good synopsis. And this is what our discussion is about this morning, is Zillow is our competitor.
Yeah. So one thing you guys need to understand, this isn't like hyperbole. This isn't, sounding the alarms or everything else that happens in our industry. Tech's going to replace you and all the other crap that everyone always talks about. This is Zillow's mission, right? And it's not like our guess on Zillow's mission. This isn't like me and Josh thinking, well, what are they trying to do? This was from Rich on stage with Brad Inman saying Zillow's mission, first and foremost, above all else, is to be where consumers go first.
Yep.
All right. That's a direct quote. That isn't, direct quote. That's where Zillow wants to be. Now, and there's nothing wrong with that. Absolutely. If I'm any business online, especially in our industry, I want to be where the consumers stay first. Okay. I also want to be where the consumers remain in the platform. Another direct quote, like, we want consumers to be there first, and what they want us to stay on their platform. Fantastic. Again, another thing. Then to talk about a little bit what Josh had mentioned was down talking about the mortgage lender, but also Zillow, is that Rich believes that the whole transaction should be done in one place with one company, right?
Zillow.
Again, totally, absolutely efficiently, one place. So if you take the fact that they want to be where the consumer goes first, they want to be where the consumer stays, and that the whole transaction should be done by one place and one company, all direct quotes,
all direct.
That means Zillow wants all of it, right? Like that, just like any company should, right? Again, nothing wrong with that at all. What we're talking about is just and I'm going to get into this in a second, and I'm very passionate about this because it's just logical and it's common sense, right? Zillow, if you're a mortgage lender, I want you to look in the mirror and say Zillow is your competitor, because they are. And I'm just going to mention some mortgage company names just to get example. I'm talking about big lenders. So I'm going to say Fairway, Movement Mortgage, Caliber Home Loans, any mortgage company, but I'm just going to name those because we all generally have heard those names, right? UWM, whatever, but UWM isn't really paying Zillow or anything like that. A lot of other companies do. But this is what you guys need to understand. They are your competitor. And I use the term of the slow boiling frog. Someone else mentioned that on one of my posts yesterday. Look, Zillow did not start out as a mortgage lender. They are a mortgage lender now.
Yep.
All right. Repeat this. Zillow is a mortgage lender now, which means they are your competitor. If you are, and again, I'm not picking on any companies. I want to do national lenders that everyone knows. I just want to use names. So, for example, let's say Loan Depot was getting the same traffic as Zillow. All right. Let's say Loan Depot had a great review system that consumers went to that trusted to find mortgage professionals. Let's say they had that. Let's say they had the home search, and let's say that they had 165 million plus unique hits on their website a day. Right? Let's say they had all that. That's what Zillow has. Are you going to tell me, as a movement loan officer, as a Caliber Home Loans loan officer, Fairway, Academy Mortgage, if you're one of their loan officers, are you telling me that you would send your clients there to Loan Depot to give you a review? No, you would not. So stop lying to yourself. Would you pay Loan Depot to buy leads from there? No, you would not. Stop lying to yourself. The reason why you wouldn't is because they're a competitor. Zillow is also a competitor, but because they started off as something different, you don't look at it in the same way. And I keep hearing people talking about, well, ROI. I get ROI from reviews. Fantastic. Leave your reviews there. I am not by any means advocating that you take your reviews off Zillow. That's social proof. That would be stupid. I'm not advocating that. What I am advocating is use Google instead, right? Start using Yelp or Google. I highly recommend. I know people don't like Yelp. I don't like them either. But Yelp gets both a huge Yelp review community, plus Google SEO. Google gets Google SEO, right? Send your clients there. The reason why would you send clients who are going to spend time on a platform and have them give their email address to Zillow to market to? Why would you do that? They're a lender. Do you think they will not send them any mortgage-based advertising or marketing to use Zillow Home Loans? Right? They already have consumer attention. They already have a level of consumer trust. Why would you do that as a mortgage lender? They're a competitor. Why would you pay? Yes, they have great, they'll give you leads. You could pay them for leads. They get a ton of consumer attention. But if a Loan Depot or think of your biggest competitor in your market, would you do that exact same deal with them if they had what Zillow had? No, you would not, because they're a competitor. You don't give them more data to play around with. Zillow has shown how lethal they could be as a business with the data that they have. They have shown where they want to go. We've just mentioned the quotes from Rich Barton, the CEO, one of the founders, now back in the CEO seat, of what Zillow's plan is for the mortgage lender, for the process.
Yep.
They want to have that in one place, and Zillow's going to be that one place. Why would you do that? Yes, there's ROI. There's an ROI in a lot of different things, but does that make sense long term, not only for this business, but for your business, right? For the industry as a whole? Does that make sense to help build that competitor? And I'll give you two great examples, right, that absolutely are a perfect analogy for this, for us latching onto Zillow because they already have it built out, because they have attention, and because there's ROI in it. Like, I'll give you an example, Toys R Us. If you look back at a lot of analysts and a lot of business analysts, financial analysts looking back at Toys R Us and their partnership with Amazon, all of them will tell you that it was a bad deal, and it actually accelerated Toys R Us's demise. Same with Borders Bookstore, because instead of building it themselves, instead of going out direct to the consumer, hey, Amazon already has it built. Hey, they do all this stuff. Hey, it's easy. Hey, there's ROI involved, so we're going to do it. And guess what? Neither of them are around anymore.
Right.
I mean, I guess Toys R Us is going to make a comeback in some form or fashion. Totally different, but we'll see how that goes. But you know who didn't do that? Barnes & Noble. You know who's still around and still has storefronts, like by a large amount? Barnes & Noble, right? And then someone, I forget who it was, someone else mentioned this, is that companies will take a loss. They won't make any profits. But when they start getting around, when they have it, when their competitors have been decimated, then they start getting their rates back to profitability. And guess what? It isn't the great deal anymore. Sometimes now you could go to your local bookstore and get books cheaper than you can on Amazon. It's just a fact of life. So in the mortgage industry, we all need to understand that if you have built a great review business on Zillow, keep it there. Continue to get that ROI. Absolutely leverage the platform for that. Do not send new consumers there to give you more reviews. If you have great reviews on there, they're going to stay there. That's great, right? Keep them there. But start going to Google. Start using other platforms that isn't directly competing for the same consumer. It makes no sense. It's not logical. And I'm sick of hearing the ROI argument with that, because it doesn't make sense for long-term sustainability
Not at all.
in this industry.
No, and that's just the thing and that's the part that I absolutely, and hey, guilty as charged. I used to use Zillow. Like, it was just like you mentioned, Jason, it's the simplicity. It's already there. And Zillow makes it look so convenient and so easy. Like, oh, here it is. Just send all your clients to Zillow for your review. The fact that this is a data game. Really, when it comes down to the end of the day, like you mentioned, Amazon, when Toys R Us partnered with Amazon, Amazon is just this huge data aggregator, and they keep grabbing all this data. That's why they own the industry. The fact that Amazon just announced that they're partnering with Realogy, like, that is one more. Like, honestly, the more I've thought about that, like, that's just Realogy opening the door for Amazon to really come in and start taking over. Realogy owns some incredibly big companies. Like, they're one of the very few profitable companies in the real estate realm. So now that they've opened the door to Amazon, come on in. It's just a matter of time before Amazon's looking at, like, well, you know what? Do we get into the mortgage space as well? But staying to the Zillow side, it's truly like we're opening so many doors to Zillow to just come in and, like you said, to remarket back to our clients. We've worked so hard to build that relationship, to really, it's not transactional, ladies and gentlemen, but Zillow is going to make it transactional. They're going to, if you send your clients to get a review on Zillow, they're going to capture their data and they're going to market the hell out of them. If they say, oh no, of course we won't. Don't be naive. That's the biggest part, is mortgage professionals, we need to do a better job of really paying attention to our competitors. And Zillow is absolutely, by far and away, in my opinion right now, probably our biggest. Everybody's talking about Quicken. Everybody's talking about some other lenders, but really Zillow is probably one of the biggest, in my opinion, because most of us know that Quicken. I love the example that you used. Like, if Loan Depot had a review system, would you send it there? No. If Quicken did, would you do the same thing? Absolutely not. No. Like, we're not daft. But Zillow, like you said, they've done it so smoothly, ladies and gentlemen, and that's why we're bringing attention to it, because many of you probably don't even know this. And we want to get it out there so you are aware. Zillow started, and maybe they did start as purely like, oh, we really want to help. But their intentions have changed. They see where the consumers are focused. They see the opportunity in the consumer realm. So why would they not take advantage of it?
And I want to bring something up. And Julian Hebron from The Basis Point, good friend of mine, great guy. He differs. He has a different opinion on this a bit, which is totally valid. And that is actually based in logic about market share. But let me tell you this. So yes, will Zillow get 100% of the market share? We're at what this year? I think we're gonna be at like 1.4 trillion dollars.
Something like that.
A mortgage industry, right? Like, are they going to get a high percentage of the market share? No. Will they get it? Will they get it good? Will they continue to build upon it? Yeah. Sure. So it's like, well, there's plenty of business, but you got to understand, every bit of market share that Zillow takes is money away from another mortgage lender that's 100%. Going to end up having to merge or fold or whatever, especially the little ones that aren't going on little brand, maybe not the big conglomerates. But think about market share. What then? Okay, so let's take that train of logic. And again, Julian, very valid, very smart dude. Basis Point, check it out, basispoint.com. Very, very good articles and coverage of the industry. But let me ask you this: what if Zillow then decides, okay, I'm going to buy Loan Depot? Or I'm going to buy Movement, or I'm going to buy these other ones. Well, guess what? Then your market share just by those mergers or purchases just 10x, and then 10x again, and 10x again. As of right now, 100% true. But when they start building, then what you're going to have is you're going to have an 80 to 90% market share potentially, depending on like if that happened, all in one brand. Like, that isn't out of the realm of possibility. So paying a competitor to help them continue to grab market share and it's going to be from you. Remember, even as a national lender, you're going to have some markets where Zillow's going to play better than what you have locally.
Absolutely.
Right? Because like every loan officer is not created equal, especially when it comes to branding and consumer experience and customer lifetime value, right? Like these are real conversations. It boggles my mind that we have all of this verifiable data that we've seen in the last 20 years since the internet and .com companies and everything else. We have the proof.
Right.
We have seen industries get disrupted. Right. It's like taxis paying Uber, which actually tends to happen now with the same tech and whatnot. Like, You would not do that in any other industry, in any other situation, but yet it's okay because, and this is why our industry has been, it's both on the real estate and the mortgage side. This is why our industry gets disrupted so easily, because we tend to take the least path of resistance and the easy way out. Is it, I know, and I see it. I see people mention it before their comment. They say, I know it's a bad idea, but I do X, Y, and Z. You know it's a bad idea, but continue to do it. Why? Because it's money. Yep. It's an instant paycheck, right? It's like, okay, I do this, but it equals this, and I'm just going to continue to ride that till it's done. The problem is that when it's done, there is no like going back, I'm going to do my own thing. By then, the game is over, because consumers are going to say, I need a mortgage, I'm going to Quicken. I need a mortgage, I'm going to Zillow. And when that is the first idea and the first thought of the consumer, it is game over for a lot of people and a lot of companies.
Yeah, and that's why we have to be so vigilant, and we have to be aware of it.
Yep.
And again, if anybody's joining us, if you're just jumping on right now, we appreciate you joining us. And if you know anybody right now, I'm not trying to have you call them out, but people who are using Zillow, we just had a comment from Christia. I always slaughter your name. I'm so sorry. Christia, didn't know it was to this extent. That's just it. We didn't know. Like, most of us do not know. And that's what Jason and I are all about, is creating that awareness. We're not here to bash Zillow. We're not here to bash anybody. Shred is in that position where that we're not flinging mud. We're not throwing people under the bus. You have to be aware of this, or like Jason, you were talking about, I think it won't be a slow movement. I don't think it's even the frog in the boiling pot of water increasing. I think because the market is just there's so much movement going on right now. There is so much uneasiness, if you will. I think there's going to be a huge shift. I think it's going to come in very quick, very swift. Right now, we're all for lack of a better word, we're pretty fat and happy because interest rates are low, the market's up. So loan officers, lending companies, real estate agents are really kind of reaping the rewards of right now. But it's going to change. Things are going to get more difficult again.
Yeah, just think about where we were 6 months ago.
Exactly.
Right? When everyone was freaking the F out about everything, and everyone was going, and a lot of companies got a stay of execution. Let's just call it what it is. They totally did. A lot of companies with the rate environment got a stay of execution. Yep. They're going to be right back in the same position, because instead of doing anything, I guess this is just what it is, and we're going to continue to status quo instead of brand. And here's a secret, guys. Like, Zillow, like, they didn't do anything earth-shattering to build their brand. They just provided a better experience and marketed it better. Right? Yep. Every single one of you, every single company that is in this space, every lender, every real estate agent, whatever, you can do the same thing.
100%.
You could get consumer attention, and you could also do one thing that they can't do, and that's be hyper local. Right. And we talked about this at Inman. We talked about it on stage, be hyper local. It's not anything earth shattering or new strategy, or we talked about digital mayor again, nothing that's earth shattering or stuff, but now it's at scale, right? Now you could do it at a crazy, at a crazy pace that you could not do it before. But now you got a lot of other players on the field trying to do the same thing. You got a lot of other companies coming up. Like, this is a real thing.
And so I want to real quick, give shout outs to, there's so many people joining us on LinkedIn. I can't even give shout outs on LinkedIn because there's so many people here on LinkedIn. If you're on LinkedIn, thanks so much for joining us. But a couple of shout outs here on Facebook, Brian, Chad Smith, and then Emmett Dempsey just had this comment. And Emmett, this is a great comment, and everybody should be aware of this as well. Emmett commented, when will realtors wise up to the dangers of Zillow? Just about all the top realtors use them and have no plans to change. I agree, Emmett. I absolutely agree. And I think more than ever, being at Inman, which Inman Connect is hyper focused on the real estate industry. We were some of the few mortgage professionals even there. That's why Jason and I go to these events, so we can come back and talk about things like this that most of the mortgage industry didn't hear about. But back to your comment and question, Emmett, that's why we as an industry, we need to be educating. I think real estate agents have no idea. Like, I think they're just like, oh, yep, Zillow is helping me. It's my reviews. It's where I use it. Again, because it's convenient. It's easy for them. We need to be the ones. I think, Emmett, this is a perfect example of so often in the industry, in the mortgage industry in particular, is we're just like, well, we need real estate agents. We need real estate agents. We need to educate real estate agents. There is no reason absolute no reason that the mortgage professional, the mortgage advisor, shouldn't be getting to the consumer before the real estate agent. If you think about it, 82% of transactions were done with an actual mortgage last year. Yep. Very, very few transactions are done with cash. And if you know I think it's 82. Somebody was telling me this. But if you know the exact, comment it below. I'd love to actually have the actual numbers there. But when it comes down to it, they need a mortgage professional. Consumers need us as the mortgage advisors first. We should be getting to them. So it's just educating them, Emmett. Hopefully Emmett gets a thumbs up. Jeff Zimfer, good question. Why is Zillow dangerous for agents? Obvious on the lender side. Same thing, Jeff. If you heard I forgot his name, Rich Barton, talk about Zillow in the way that he did, same thing. It was about agents are no longer necessary part of the transaction. And I don't know what you took away from it, but he really was, some of his comments were like, why, like the real estate agent and some of the iBuyers, we heard so much about the iBuyer, and many of you have heard about that. That's a whole other conversation. Yeah. But Rich is really focused on that iBuyer, really getting to the consumer first and eliminating the real estate agent. That's really what his underlying theme was. The more and more he commented, Zillow wants to they want, as we started this conversation, is they want the transaction to be with Zillow. Yeah. They don't want it to be with the mortgage professional. They don't want it to be with the real estate professional. They want it to be Zillow.
Yeah. So, and one thing everyone should understand is if you're a real estate agent, right, you just have to go in there with eyes wide open.
100%.
Right now, Zillow technically isn't a competitor of an agent, right? They don't have their own brokerage or whatnot, even though they have a broker's license because they have to regulations. But one thing that it's something that I talked about when the whole Stop Zillow movement happened, is that the biggest funding, the biggest revenue generator of Zillow is real estate agents with their Premier Agent program,
100%. Right?
Now, it used to be in the low to mid 70s when it came from a percentage wise, right? Now, I want to say it was at like 61 or 62%. So the more that number goes down for Zillow, as far as the percentage of revenue, the more it increases that they can become a competitor. And here's why, is that if Zillow decided that they were going to be an absolute competitor to real estate agents, chances are they would lose a lot of their Premier agents.
Absolutely.
A company cannot use 72% of their revenue and continue to operate, right? But now it's lower and lower. So if that gets down to around 30, 20% of their revenue, if it starts coming from all these other ancillary businesses and partnerships and lead generation and everything else, doing mortgages and iBuyer, if that starts being a high part of their revenue, then absolutely they're going to change their tune. When Zillow started, they weren't going to be a mortgage lender either, but now they are, because it made business sense for them. So just go in there with eyes wide open, knowing that that's what that is. And then here's a stat. So Chelsea Pites posted last week on, I can't remember the data source. She had mentioned to, I forget his name, but that in the Phoenix market, which has been basically the launching point and testing ground for the iBuyer model, is that 40% of home sellers get an iBuyer quote.
Whew.
That should open your eyes. 40% will start off with getting an iBuyer quote.
Yep.
40%, that's a lot. Now, here's the kicker. I was doing some research and looking at some stats, and I don't know if I have his name on here or not. I'm going to try to find it real quick. But he said that in Phoenix, that actually is around 70%.
Wow.
Right? So 70%. And let me just see if I could find the graphic. And I may not.
And while Jason's doing that, hey, Jeff, I heard him say agents, this is Jeff's comment, Jeff Zimfer. I heard him say agents aren't going away. iBuyers will take a percentage of the market share. Yes. For those that don't go iBuyers, Zillow will distribute those leads to Premier agents. You literally said it like it's to their Premier agents. They're creating Zillow agents, Jeff. It's not, and everybody's not going to go with Zillow. But when it comes down to it, it sounds like you watched a good portion of Rich's talk. Yes, he said agents aren't going away, but I don't know if you caught it. His focus were on Zillow agents. Where are these Premier agents? Again, this is why we just need to have eyes wide open. If we don't talk about this, if we're not discussing it, I truly think do I agree with Rich that agents aren't going away? I absolutely do. I don't think they can't. Like he even said in his own talk, it will be a percentage of the market. But again, he's focused on his bottom dollar. He's not focused. And I think that's more than anything what we want to focus on is he doesn't have the betterment of the industry in mind. He has the betterment of Zillow in mind.
Absolutely. And for the consumer experience.
Yep.
Absolutely. It's the reason why it works. And Jeff, so there's a lot of top teams, and I know a lot of the brokers and agents that use it that spend tens of thousands, even over $100,000 in Zillow ad spend each month. And what happens when Zillow decides like that's all we're going to do? And then those teams, like if they built their whole book of business off that, now obviously they're hopefully doing good database marketing, nurturing that, and creating clients for themselves, so they don't have to spend as much. But their spend isn't going down;
100%.
It's going up.
Yep.
Right. And so when that happens, if Zillow decides like, okay, we're going to have our premier agents, but you're going to work for Zillow, are you telling me those companies are all of a sudden just going to turn around and be like, okay, well, I guess we're going to start generating our own leads now? No, they're going to go work with Zillow because it's going to make financial sense for them and their business, and it's be a good model, and they'll get good attention. Again, so that's one thing they understand is like there's so many different facets of this.
Yep.
That it is not, and I'm saying this, that it's not good for the industry as in like a lot of people working in it. I'm not saying it's bad for the consumer. I'm just saying for our industry, for our model, if we're not going to adapt, if we're not going to try to compete and do the same things that Zillow has done to create a great customer experience, to give the consumer what they actually want, if we're not going to do that same, then that is very bad news for our model.
100%. And so, Jeff, you made a great comment here. I'm just making the point that Zillow isn't trying to eliminate agents
Yes.
But that's the point. And I guess that's, again, the whole underlying theme of our discussion is we need to be hyper aware of what's going on in the industry we're doing, which I am all about staying in your lane, staying focused, going out there and crushing it. But at the same time, we need to be at least aware of what's going on in the industry and who's positioning themselves. Zillow is a data aggregator. That's exactly what they are. And they're going to, whether or not down the road they try to take over the industry, whether they try to take over, again, it will be a small percentage. But it's just starting that discussion. So,
and I see a comment from Emmett about the National Real Estate Post talking about the iBuyers stuff. It's definitely more dangerous because consumers are thinking that that's a better option,
right?
When we know that the majority by a high percentage is it's not a great option. But again, this just it's one of those things that you got to think about. Why is that a thing? Like why, and this is what I don't, this is what amazes me about our industry. And I talk about it all the time about, hey, Google about our industry. Nothing is positive, right? The perception is bad. So understand that. Like you're like, well, why would a consumer, because I've literally seen this on people being interviewed that have been successful iBuyers that Open Door, OfferPad, and others have used as examples that said, I didn't want to deal with a real estate agent.
Yep.
Can you imagine that someone is willing to lose $10,000 to $15,000 so they don't have to deal with a real estate agent? Think about that. Think about that mentality,
right?
That they're paying to not have to work with a real estate agent. That should wake enough people up to understand that.
Absolutely.
And there's certain situations. So let's also understand that everyone isn't in a bubble. Every borrower, every seller, every buyer isn't the same. They all have different life circumstances. They all have different things happening and occurring and everything else. They have all of this stuff happening, right? So like sometimes it makes sense to take an iBuyer offer, right?
Yep.
There's something happen or whatever in the equity. It just makes sense to them, right? And so is that going to be a large part of the market? No, but when the narrative becomes that it is, and the narrative becomes that dealing with loan officers and stuff like Better Mortgage does with their commercials or Quicken does with their commercials about loan officers being a pain in the butt, being ancient, being not in the know, not being modern, not meeting to the consumer's expectations, being all about them, and real estate agents not being worth or being overpaid with the lawsuit that's happening right now. The more that's the narrative, and we know in this day and age of social media, it doesn't take much for a narrative to overtake what the actual reality is. And this
100%.
goes back to perception being reality.
Yep.
Like it's hard to come back from that, especially when all we're doing is playing defense as opposed to going out there as an industry united saying the best option for you as a seller or a buyer is to use a local expert, local real estate
Exactly.
expert, local mortgage expert. Like that is the best thing for you to do. Now, as services get consolidated, margins get compressed, that changes. And then before we know it, we're going to look back, I guarantee you, and maybe not even 10 years, but 5 years, we're going to look back and saying we should have done X, Y, and Z, just like Toys R Us did, just like Borders did, just like taxis did. Like every single time we're going to look back. We have the data. Look back. We've seen the future. Look at it now and adjust accordingly.
Absolutely agree. So guys, when it comes down, and that's really what our message, as we continue to educate the industry and create awareness, really when it comes down to it, it's the local independent mortgage expert, advisor, real estate. It's the local experts that are truly that we need to band together. We need to unite to really take it to these bigger companies. So that's really when it comes down to the end of the day, what our underlying message is all about. A couple of big shout outs, people on LinkedIn. LinkedIn's finally starting to come through, giving us our people who are joining. Scott Short, thanks for joining us. Susan Heckman, great comment. Whoa, time to embrace the iBuyer numbers and use them to our advantage. Absolutely, Susan. Thanks so much for joining us. Jacqueline Smith, Bill Stevens, Brian Covey. So many names. David J. Wolf, Vergi, our good friend, Van Horst. Yes. So thanks everybody joining us on LinkedIn. And if you're just joining us now live, comment hashtag shred. That means you're here. You're shredding it up with us. And if you're joining us on the replay, make sure you comment hashtag hustle. You're out there hustling and you're back to it.
So Larry brought up a good point. I just saw this, Larry, about he thinks the possible path of this industry is mortgage and real estate participants aligning themselves with large eyeball aggregation firms like Zillow, Redfin. Look, that's already happening.
Right?
It's already happening. But they need people on the ground. But that's the thing is so here's our choices in regards to that, Larry. And you're not wrong. You're 100% not wrong. But here's the choices when it comes to that. And I talk a lot about this when I talk to agents and loan officers, when I'm talking about marketing, branding, and all the other good stuff. Here's our choices. Our choices are, one, either we build the industry ourselves or we evolve our industry to what it needs to be for the modern consumer and for the modern professional. Either we're doing that ourselves or we are going to be relegated to accepting what outside forces build as the new real estate model. Yep. And then we're just cogs in a massive machine, right? That we don't control, that we're basically just taking what's left. So don't disagree with you at all, Larry. You're 100% right on point, but we got to decide as an industry, do we want to be the ones in the driver's seat or do we want to be the ones in the back of the car?
Yep. We got to be in the driver's seat. And that's really what we're trying to help create and focus on here in the industry. So with that, guys, Jason, I don't know if you have any other comments in regards to this. As always, we appreciate you guys showing up. And if you have topics, if we're going to continue, there's a few other discussions. We didn't even get a chance to get into our recap of Inman all last week. This was just part of it. So Jason and I will definitely be doing a video later this week talking about our thoughts about Inman, about the real estate industry, some of the conversations we had there, aside from this definitely hot topic of Zillow.
Yep.
So yeah, and if you have topics you're wanting to discuss, if you hear something, you're like, hey, I heard about this, what's going on? Please let us know. Fortunately, Jason and I, we just have a lot of incredible people that are in our corner that are really helping us when it comes to educating the industry, and that's exactly what we're all about, guys. So with that, I hope you guys are having an incredible Monday. Make sure you go out and take action and just absolutely dominate the day. And we appreciate you. We love you. You got to show up. You got to hustle.
And repeat every day.
Guys, I hope you have an incredible day. Go out there, have fun, enjoy the day, and we'll talk to you guys soon.